Hello everybody, John here, and today on To The Garage we're looking at sorting out yet another of Blue's issues related to no service history, shady past, all the rest of it. And that is, it only has one key, and that key has a bad remote that only works to lock it but not really unlock it, etc, etc. And whilst I could fix the key fob up if I really needed to, not having two keys is actually more of a concern to me. So our options with this are go to Jaguar, pay through the nose, give them the VIN number and a bit of time, and they will eventually supply you with a new key that has a remote that is coded to your car, as in the chip inside it will operate the code reader on the barrel, and also the remote control will be coded if you bring the car to them, so that it listens to and replies to the units inside and you can work the remote, and the key blade will be cut correctly. Or for half the price, probably considerably less, do it all yourself with the aid of local suppliers, let's say. So I'm going for that route, which involves eBay blank key, non-genuine, complete unit, local locksmith to cut the Tibby key pattern on here, local locksmith to replace and code the chip that's inside the key that I will buy, and then finally me coding the remote to listen and pair up with the car itself. Jaguar will charge, and please don't quote this to a Jaguar dealer because it varies place to place, all sorts of things, but let's say £250 for a new key if they're going to do everything for you, including pairing it up. If you do it yourself like I did, then it's going to cost you about £50 UK. So this is the original key, the one I have got, or had got, and it's got a little growler on the button that operates the flip mechanism for the key blade. But in all other regards, as you can see in a mo, it doesn't look any different to the one that I'm replacing it with. So I started off by just doing a little disassembly on the original key. Therefore, little brass pips do actually move. So the buttons in this remote are just rubber covers that stop you physically touching those buttons on the circuit board. There's one screw in the corner that holds the circuit board down, and once you've got that out, you can pick up the circuit board and reveal the batteries. Very straightforward on the back. And I say batteries, that's force of habit from the XK8. There is only one battery in this remote. It's a single CR2032, which fortunately is rather a common battery still these days, so no problem getting hold of those whatsoever. And the positive side goes down when you're putting it back into its holder. So I took the opportunity, just proving which one it is there, while it was out, to check it, to see what sort of condition it was in. And this is obviously on my old key. It was fully functional, but as I got the thing open and I got some new batteries, I thought I'd change the battery in the vain hope that it made the other buttons work a little bit more effectively. Maybe it's a weak signal thing. These 2032 batteries from Duracell are incredibly well packed. I'm not used to this, I must be buying cheap batteries most of the time. Not only are they in a blister pack, but they're in a sealed pouch within the blister pack. So yeah, you're going to need your scissors to get these things out. and even then there is a sticker on the one side just to make sure there's no chance of arcing and leaking some of its power away. So well done Duracell for your packaging. Battery just gets pushed back into place and then held down with the circuit board. So the remote end of the key fob, very simple, very straightforward. Circuit board on top of battery, and not very different to any of the remotes that you get with any of the Jags. On my XK8 remote at this stage, I'd definitely be cleaning the little pips on the backs of these buttons because they're electrically conductive and touch a circuit board to make and break connections. Promised, as I said, they're genuinely just little push buttons that press down onto the 4 actual buttons on that circuit board. Whole thing just snaps back together, and we can look at the other half. So in this half we have a standard Ford Tibby keyblade on a flip mechanism and a coded chip. So the two items are completely separate and can be used separately. The key with the chip will start your car, and the remote can be used to open it. So getting a key from a Jaguar dealer is a bit hit and miss. Some people will have a reasonably good experience. Most will pay through the nose, and it's not uncommon to have to pay £150, £200 by the time you've got a key from Jaguar and it's coded and programmed. So I went online and bought a cheap knockoff key, as in not genuine, $14.99 from eBay, and this is what turned up. The exterior mould in the plastic parts look identical. It's very likely been taken off the same tooling or tooling that's been copied. The only visible difference is you don't get that growler on the press button for the flip element of the key. My key ring, the original, the bit that you slip the ring through, is pulling out, and on the new one that's nice and secure. Obviously the new key comes with a blank blade, it's not cut, and it does have a chip inside it, but it's not coded, and as I discovered later, it's not even the right chip, so it actually can't be coded to the Jag regardless of what the seller says, and I was half expecting that, if I'm honest. The chip actually lives where my forefinger is, just there. There's a little divot, and it's basically looks like a jelly bean, a bit thinner, and is in a groove back there. The other half of the key unit, the remote, is again almost exactly the same. There's a few tiny deviations in things like the shapes of the holes that you put your screwdriver in to prise it apart that tell you that the tooling is subtly different, but these are very good copies of the original Jaguar key, and the materials used are actually very, very similar. You're not going to pick this up and say it feels inferior. It's the same essentially. The circuit board itself inside is different. The tracks on it run differently. It's printed differently. It's not just a Jag one inserted into somebody else's housing. So a probably Chinese company has manufactured their own board, but it does appear to have the same switches installed on it, and even a CE mark built into the circuit board design. Whether that's legit or not, I do not know. So nothing wrong with this other than it doesn't have a little growler on the front. The key fob came with a battery. I did check it, the voltage was good, so it went out with the battery it had. The steering lock on your X350 isn't actually operated by the barrel of your key like it is on most cars. It's operated by the little flap that closes over the hole to stop the dirt and rubbish getting in there. And if you listen, if I would just put the key tip in, it locks and unlocks the steering. Now, interestingly, the flap itself isn't what's triggering the steering to unlock. The flap says, oh, I've been opened, turn on the code reader, that reads the chip that's embedded inside the key about there. So that says, read this chip. If I now take another key, which doesn't have the right chip, I can put it into the flap and nothing happens. Opening the flap causes it to read the key, but if you haven't got the right key, it still won't unlock. Now, an interesting problem you can have on these cars with the security is you've got a perfectly coded key and everything else, but it won't start, it won't unlock the steering, etc. What's going on? Everything's broken. All it is the little flap that closes over the keyhole has stuck in the open position. And like many devices, once it's been told to read the key, after a little while it decides that I'll turn back off. And if this doesn't close again, you don't have a way of telling it you've put the key in the hole. So squirting a little bit of WD-40 or other appropriate lock lubricant, let's say, into that hole is actually quite important, because if the little flap doesn't move backwards and forwards, it can't tell the car to read the code in your key. And for anybody who doubts this logic and thinks, well, no, John, it's just proximity. So here's the car's actual key. Here's a blank key. Move the actual car key away. Nothing. So next is getting the key cut and the chip changed. And for that I used Timpson, which is a high street locksmith in the UK, quite a large series of branches around the country. This is not a sponsored thing, it's certainly not an advert, I'm just sharing who I used. You can check them out online. Timpson have a website, and they do fobs and keys and will sell you them if they've got them in stock, or they'll get them for you, and they'll cut Jaguar keys, they'll code chips in keys, they'll change chips in keys, and obviously they'd much rather sell you the whole thing. But I went to my local one and he cut the key and changed the chip and coded it for £45. And then the last stage is basically just teaching your car about your new remote and your remote about your car through a pairing up procedure very similar to that for the XK8. So take your key, put it in the ignition, and open the door. I'm going to pull the light stalk to put main beam flash on and hold it there, and I've got the blue symbol on the dashboard telling me that the main beam is on. Then I'm turning the key one click to the right to the accessory position. And then I'm going to flash the headlights. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then press any of the buttons on your key fob 5 times. If you want 2 keys coded, then press the key fob that's in the ignition, let's say 3 times, and then pick up your other key and press that twice, adds up to 5. And that's how you put together your own second key for an X358, X350, and a few other of the earlier Jags as well. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe, give us your comments, and look forward to seeing you again soon on To The Garage.